Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the criminal justice system in the state of Tennessee, and we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the criminal justice system in the state of Tennessee a member of the Tennessee Supreme Court, Justice ABirch. And of course, Justice Birch, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Haney. I'm happy to be here with you.
You know, Judge Birch, it is indeed a privilege to have you with us this morning and to talk about the criminal justice system in the state of Tennessee. But before we get into that, let's talk about Justice ABirch, to give you an opportunity to talk about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in your career, some of the positions that you've held and whatnot, in your rise from where you started to one of the most elevated judicial positions in the entire state of Tennessee.
Well, Dr. Haney, you know I don't like to talk about myself, but I'll
demanded, though.
I'll just mention a few things.
Very good.
I graduated from Howard Law School in 1956. I got 2 degrees at the same time, a Doctor of Jurisprudence as well as a Bachelor of Arts. And from there I went into the United States Navy to fulfill my military obligation. In '58, after the Navy, I came to Nashville and I started practicing law. Incidentally, I passed the bar while I was in the Navy on a 30-day leave. I just started practicing in Nashville. Other prominent lawyers then were Z. Alexander Luby and Avon Williams and R.B.J. Campbell and Bob Lillard, J.F. McClellan, and I associated with J.F. McClellan. And after a while, I associated with Mr. Lillard, Bob Lillard, the city councilman, politician, and just practiced law. Things started looking up back in then. We went through the sit-ins, you know, and the unrest here in Nashville. I was pleased to have been able to represent some of the sit-in students. And in '63, I believe, I was appointed Assistant Public Defender by Sanders Anglia, who got to be a councilman at large in the metropolitan government. I did that for 3 years together with a private practice, and then in 1966, I was appointed by the late Tom Shriver as an Assistant District Attorney General. And I prosecuted across the board felony cases, murders, rapes, robberies for the state of Tennessee for 3 years until 1969. In '69, Governor Ellington appointed me to the General Sessions Court. And I had to run for that in '70, and I was fortunate and we prevailed. Incidentally, I think I was perhaps, if not the first, one of the first black Afro-American General Sessions judges in the state. So I stayed in the General Sessions Court for about 9 years until '78, when I was appointed to the Criminal Court of Davidson County. And I served there until '87, at which time I was appointed to the Court of Criminal Appeals. And I served there until '93, until Governor McWhirter appointed me to the Supreme Court. And then in '96, I think, '96 to '97, I served my term as Chief Justice of the state of Tennessee, of the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee. So that's, I guess, a capsule about it. I'm a little, not embarrassed, but I'm a little sensitive about people always saying the first this, you're the first this, you're the first that, and you're the first the other. I'd like the day to come when that really is not relevant.
Well, there will always be a day when there will probably be a first, Judge. We're just glad to have, as we said, to have an opportunity to talk to you. And just looking back over your experiences and to think about the topic that we're dealing with, the criminal justice system in Tennessee, I don't think that there is a more appropriate person, whether you're recognized as the first this or that, to talk about that, because you have been involved in dealing, as you said, with almost every aspect of the criminal law.
Well, when you look back, it's what, 41 years?
Well, let's talk about the criminal justice system in the state of Tennessee that you've been dealing with, from your perspective.
What part of it and how far back?
However you wish to do.
Well, let me say that I honestly feel that our system in Tennessee is a good one. Mm-hmm. It's good because it is operated and managed and staffed by good, decent people. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there may be someone who's not quite as good and not quite as sincere or sensitive as he or she should be. I don't know who they are, but obviously there may be a person or two of that description. But overall, by and large, we have good people operating the system. We have some almost 210, 220 trial and appellate judges in Tennessee. I know all of them. Each one of them I know. And I'm convinced that when you balance it, we have a pretty good system.
What's the structure, Judge, of this system, this criminal justice system? I mean, how would you structure that so that the layman, the average person, can understand exactly the movement of it up to your situation?
All right. Well, first of all, you have the municipal courts, and that's like the city court of Memphis, Tennessee, or the city court of Knoxville. We used to have a city court here before metropolitan government, and they enforce the ordinances, except in metropolitan government. City ordinances, parking and code violations and such as that. And on the next level, there's the Court of General Sessions, which in Nashville handles every misdemeanor or most misdemeanors and most petty offenses. Ordinance violations, code violations, environmental violations, parking violations, and the like, health violations and the like. And also the General Sessions Court serves on the criminal side as a preliminary hearing court where persons charged with very serious felonies obtain a preliminary hearing before being bound over to the grand jury.
So these are not when they are bound over, they have an opportunity to be heard before they are indicted. Is that what we're saying?
Certainly. But once indicted, they go to the criminal court. And that's where the juries are, where we have jury trials, where persons are tried and, if convicted, sentenced to whatever sentence the judge feels is appropriate. And from there we go to the Court of Appeals and Court of Criminal Appeals, which exist on the same level.
But these are two different courts?
Two different courts. Court of Criminal Appeals was established in '66, I believe, for review, to make sure that whatever happened in the trial court was proper and appropriate, and the sentence was a proper one. And then to the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee. And in that way we make the final decision on cases that come before us.
Now, Judge, the Supreme Court has been unusually active in terms of meeting the public, has it not? I mean, is this the general way that Supreme, because I do know that on many occasions the court has been in one area, another area. Is that the general way that courts, Supreme Courts in other areas conduct themselves, or what?
Well, Dr. Haney, I guess it varies from state to state. There are some, I imagine, who do the same thing we do, and yet I imagine there's some who don't. But we think it's a good thing to get out and to show the citizens, and especially young folks, that we are human, that we're just like them. We want them to know what we do, and we take the court to them. This is the theory, or this is the principle behind the Scales Project, Supreme Court assisting learning and education in students.
Very good. Let us interrupt here, Judge, for this commercial break, and we'll be back with you. In Tennessee, or the criminal